Welcome to another video of the Target Individual Experience, the Target Individual Program. I'm going to start off from the previous video and continue reading from the book, The Hidden Evil, the Elite's Covert War Against Humanity. Okay, so the previous video I talked about NLP and how it is being used, and today I'm going to talk about what is called Brighton, as well as other things that they do to the targeted individual. So Brighton, right, and you hear this term used a lot by targeted individuals. Vehicular Brighton is an attack that is strategically used with corners. For instance, if you're walking down a quiet street late at night, you'll see vehicles repeatedly turn into or off connecting street. The timing is such that they continually turn the corners while you approach. This effectively blinds you. Or, as you walk down a side street, there is one or more cars parked on the side facing your direction with the lights on. They will also wait for you to approach them and then pull them out into the street, thereby brighten as you walk by. Like other tactics, frequencies and durations play an important role here. Lights being shined into a TI windows have also been reported. Among the most common non-lethal weapons are bright lights, wrote Dr. Alexander in his book Winning the War, which are a way of temporarily hindering the eyesight of the targeted persons. Now, let me explain to you how they do this to me. The first time I experienced Brighton, I was taking the train to work, and I got off at the train station. So I exited off the train onto the platform, and I was walking up the stairs. There were this guy and this woman, you know, Caucasian guy and woman. They look like news reporters. So the camera guy, he had the camera, and as I was walking up the stairs, he turned on the lights of the camera directly in my face. Okay, and this is something that they'll do. I'm not. They don't do it frequently, but from time to time, this is what they will do. Right? It's kind of like sending you some message that they're gonna put you on the news. Right? This is something that they continuously try to do to TI, because again, it is based on fear. It is based on trying to make you look bad in the public's eye and trying to downplay, what they have done to you. Okay, because they're not going to talk about the psychological programming that they've done to you using dark NLP. They're not going to talk about how they drug you. They're not going to talk about how they pay other people to manipulate you, to give you drugs, to you know uh, manipulate you sexually, right? So if you're a female TI, they will get men, okay? They will drug you, get men to target you, sleep with you, seduce you, and then try to use that as a tool to shame you. Okay, with men is different. What they'll do with men is, what they'll try to do is that they'll drug you, then they'll have you sleep with whoever they want you to sleep with. Then that individual will try to say that you sexually assaulted them or you raped them. So as a TI, especially you're a man and a woman, you have to be very careful of the opposite sex. And even if you like the same sex, you have to be very careful of those people also. Okay, because again, this is the thing that they do, right? And they will try to use that as, again, to try to shame you or to try to hold it over your head to recruit you into their criminal entity. right, and engage in their criminal activities. Okay, so like other tactics, frequency and duration plays an important role here. Lights being shined into a TI window have also been reported. Among the most common non-lethal weapons are bright lights. Okay, wrote Dr. Alexander within the wall, which are a way of temporarily hindering the eyesight of a targeted person. You read that. All right, let's move on. Blacklisted. Job opportunities will be trash. Most TIs are unemployed, right? And so what it is also is that when you become a TI, you are now part of a caste system, not a class system, but a caste system. Okay, it's like in India where people know who the untouchables are. If you are a targeted individual, you become untouchable, meaning that your people in your neighborhood, your family members, your friends, your potential lovers, potential mate, they will stay away from you. They will not engage in you in as they would with somebody else who is not a TI. And if it's a person that you might be interested in, and you go to talk to them, they will not talk to you. They will harass you. So again, this is what I'm talking about. When we talk about when I say that as TIs, we are put into now the in a caste system, just like you have the homeless, right? But a person who's not a TI who is homeless can get out of homelessness. But if you are a TI, it is very, very difficult. Okay? Okay. So, job opportunities will be trash. Most TIs are unemployed. Many would be in the street if it weren't for parents, siblings, or friends. Those who are employed are usually mob, progressive financial impoverishment brought on by termination of the individual employment, which happened to me, and compounded by expenses associated with the harassment, wrote McKinney. Most of the targeted individuals she was able to observe during her early investigations were mobbed out of, out of employment by their co-workers. They are blacklisted. There are blacklists and software packages used to check these lists for suspected terrorists and threats to national security. Apparently, this is a flourishing business, according to the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU. Blacklisting has also been used on Russian dissidents. In his book, The Persecutor, Sergei Kudakov, a member of the plainclothes police brigade, declared that once a person was targeted, they could only get the worst job if they were employed at all. Sergei Kudakov defected to Canada and eventually ended up in Los Angeles, California. In addition to writing his book, he spoke in churches, on televisions, gave newspaper interviews, and spoke before government officials describing the practices of the Soviet secret police. Now, like I said, this same thing is happening here in the United States, and it's been happening for decades. Okay, this is nothing new. Okay, and like I said to Ti, what is new though is now we have the power to expose this in such a way that that was never there before. Okay, not also that, but we have to give thanks to target individuals such as Mark Rich, others. Um, what is her name? Trying to remember this target individual name. Also, shoot, can recall their name now. But it'll come back to me, and I'll say their names. But yeah, but this is what happened. All right. So to accomplish this, the government of the USSR used something called a workbook, which could advance or destroy careers. If you were cooperative with the state, your career could be very successful. If not, you would live in poverty. And this is exactly what's happening to us as TIs, right? Especially, and this Coercive Persuasion Program, okay, as I talked about. Okay, so let me go back to the Coercive Persuasion definition, mind control tactics. Okay, coercive persuasion, coercive psychological system, or coercive influence. Coercive psychological system or behavioral change system programs which use psychological force in a coercive way to cause the learning and adaptation of an ideology or designated set of beliefs, ideas, attitudes, or behavior. The essential strategies used by the operators of these programs is to systemically select, sequence, and coordinate many different types of coercive influence, anxiety, and stress-producing tactics over continuous periods of time. You guys hearing the helicopter? The hel Yeah, it's a helicopter. But it might have been a small plane, but it's a helicopter. Okay. So let's see. The central strategy used by the operators of these programs is to systematically select, sequence, and coordinate many different types of coercive influence, anxiety, and stress-producing tactics over continuous period of time. In such a program, the subject is forced to adapt in a series of tiny invisible steps. Each tiny step is designed to be significantly small, so the subject will not notice the change in themselves or identify the coercive nature of the process being used. The subject themselves, the subject of these tactics do not become aware of the hidden organizational purpose of the coercive psychological program until much later, if ever. These tactics are usually applied in a group setting by well-intended but deceived friends and allies of the victim. This keeps the victim from putting up the ego defense we normally maintain in known adversarial situations. The coercive psychological influence of these programs aim to overcome the individual critical thinking abilities and free will, apart from any appeal to informed judgment. Victims gradually lose their ability to make independent decisions and exercise informed consent. Their critical thinking, defensive cognitive process, values, ideas, attitudes, conduct, and ability to reason are undermined by a technological process rather than by a meaningful free choice, rationality, or the inherent merit or value of the idea or position being presented. And then it goes on to how do they work. So when I talk about the caste system of putting us TIs into, it is because again, when we start to expose what's happening, okay, then they will try to shut us up, okay, and that's what they'll be spreading their rumors and to get the community involved in targeting you and stuff like that. And again, this is not new, and they have proven time and time again that people will follow those in the authoritative position if given orders to cause harm or the destruction of somebody's life, and they will not be held accountable and be responsible for what they have done and what they have participated in. Okay, and this is why you'll see all these civilian perpetrators engaging in these criminal behavior and these criminal acts. Why? Because those within the authoritative positions are giving them the information. They're telling them where we're going to be. They're feeding them our location, our conversations, okay? And they're giving it to these civilian perpetrators, right? And we'll use that information to engage in a smear campaign and a psychological torture campaign against you. All right. So one of the things that I want to read, which is Tactic 7, which is very important, is the intimidation part. Right. It's with the force of group sanctioned secular psychological threats. For example, it may be suggested or implied that failure to adopt the approved attitude, belief, or consequence behavior would lead to severe punishment or dire consequences such as physical or mental illness, the reappearance of a prior physical illness, drug dependence, economic collapse, social failure, divorce, disintegration, failure to find a mate, etc. Okay? All right? And then also, it says here the accumulated effect of these processes can even be more effective form of undue influence than pain, torture, drugs, or the use of physical force and physical and legal threats. Okay? Just want you guys to understand this. And that's why I always go back to this, because this is very important and you need to know this. Okay? So, I was just reading that, and let me see here. Okay, this is what I just read, so you guys can see for yourself. Okay? All right, so let's get back. Okay. To accomplish this, the government in the USSR used something called a workbook, which could advance or destroy careers. If you were cooperative with the state, your career could be very successful. If not, you would live in poverty. In East Germany, dissidents were blacklisted as well, and their careers were destroyed. After the wall came down, they were allowed to inspect their files and learn why they were unable to get jobs or enter into universities. Dr. Munzert speak of the similarity between what is now happening and what the occurred in Germany. One goal, he says, is to destroy the targeted individual financially. And this is true because it makes you unappealing to a potential mate. Okay, it makes you unappealing to your friends. Okay, and it will lead to homelessness. It will lead to suicide. It will lead to a whole host of physical and mental illness, which is brought on by an exterior force. Okay, if you've previously been mobbed out of employment and are blacklisted, the attack may continue during interviews. Presumably, this is used to further traumatize you. For instance, they may ask you a series of questions for which you have no answer. Which you have to answer no to, such as asking you for credentials that you did not list on your resume. They may ask you if you possess skill sets which were not listed in the ad they had placed. Interview question may be asked with accusing or mocking tone. Questions may also be asked using certain words linked to the negative work environment you just left. The harassment is concealed in layers of accommodation to help strengthen the illusion that you're not working because you don't choose to. For instance, you may have recruiters who have harassed you in the past leave messages on your answer machine or with relatives, friends, indicating that there are opportunities available to you. It will be made to look as if you're unemployed due to your choice. Of course, like I said, they have to make it look as if it is naturally as current as possible so that it doesn't draw the attention of other people. But yet, again, this is what we as TI have to come into play. We have to start exposing this. Okay? So that others will know exactly what's being done. And this is all about control. Right? This is about experimentation on you, to control you, to keep you quiet, okay, to not expose what's being done, right? To shut you up so that you won't tell others about these mind control technologies, these directed energy technologies based off of the microwave and radio wave frequency for the purpose of controlling the human brain, as well as the illegal microchipping, right, for the purpose of remote neural monitoring. Okay? Communication interference. A target's communication may be tampered with. Communication interference also happens during COINTELPRO. The Stasi, too, would intercept the mail and phone calls of its targets. Targeted individual may also receive lots of harassing phone calls and pranks, which I do get, and I can show you a ton of them. Okay, I get a ton of phone calls, okay, from numbers that I don't know, and then there are times where I'll get numerous phone calls in which you will, which will have the number 32 in the phone number multiple times a day, because 32 is a number in which they use to try to trigger me, right? It is a trigger, uh, which I guess the anchor didn't take place because, I kind of like change it, you know, and I keep changing it whenever I see that number so that I'm not negatively affected. I don't feel any type of negative emotion. Okay, so that's what I had to do. I get a lot of phone calls, and let me see. I don't want to. I have other people numbers on here, so I don't want to show a lot of these things. All right. Well, you guys gotta take my word for it, okay? Because I don't want to have to put people numbers out there. Okay. Also, your online activities. Okay. TIs are also attacked online. Search engine results may be filtered and replaced with information pertaining to the TI personal life. Website that they visit may be spoofed and contain information which is apparently intended to let them know that they're being watched. If you have a website devoted to exposing this program, you may receive flaming email messages. Messages sent from some victim will contain information pertaining to your personal life. This tactic may be used to foster a sense of hopelessness and isolation. And that is exactly what it does. Okay? All right, so let's go here. The harassment of some TIs is allegedly broadcast around the country via closed circuit TV. In the workplace, this can be easily done by surveillance cameras, which many businesses now have in place. McKinney has witnessed surveillance film of people being gang stalked in the office. She declared that it might be used for the purpose of creating a sense of unity and or identifying TIs who are to be harassed on the street. In addition to facilitating group cohesiveness and identifying targeted people, McKinney noted that it seems to be a major source of entertainment for the individual directing the attacks. Covert workplace surveillance is big business, stated the Denver Rocky Mountain News in April 2001. Secret monitoring of employees has grown dramatically, echoed Knight Rider in their August of 1997 articles entitled "The Boss is Watching" as workplace surveillance grows. According to these publications, the equipment is installed after hours and includes miniature cameras hidden in thermostats, light switch, and on walls and ceilings that are located in changing areas, locker room, break rooms, and even bathrooms. Okay, non-lethal weapons. My goal here is not to cover this topic in detail, but to provide evidence that these weapons exist and are being used on the civilian population. Non-lethal weapons include directed energy weapons, DEW, also known as electromagnetic weapons. Most targets of the hidden and evil are hit with these weapons. Some are reportedly located in bases operations surrounding TIs. Some may be satellite or tower based. People always receive DEW attacks while traveling, such as on airplanes or in vehicles. Apparently, briefcase sized portable weapons are used. These weapons are similar ones these weapons are currently being used on a massive scale against citizens in North America and in other NATO nations. Okay, so I want to diverge from this article, from this book, and go to this article, which talks about this is microwave. Let's get to the heading here. Recent advances in the effect of microwave radiation on the brain. Okay. All right. Let's see before I forget this. Abstract. Okay. All right. So this study contains the effect of microwave on health because they pervade diverse fields of our life. The brain has been recognized as one of the organs that is most vulnerable to microwave radiation. Therefore, in this article, we review recent studies that have explored the effect of microwave radiation on the brain, especially the hippocampus, including analyses of epidemiology, I hope I'm saying that right, morphology, electroencephalograms, learning and memory abilities, and the mechanism underlying brain dysfunction. However, the problem with these studies is that different parameters such as the frequency modulation and power density of the radiation and the irradiation time were used to evaluate microwave radiation between studies. As a result, the existing data exhibit poor reproducibility and compatibility to determine the specific dose effect relationship between microwave radiation and its biological effect. More intensive studies must be performed. But we're going to, I'm just going to go through just a couple things here. Okay. Microwave are electromagnetic waves with frequencies ranging from 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz. Microwave are widely used in household, industries, communications, and medical and military buildings, and they provide substantial contribution to the development of human society. However, with its popularization, increasing attention has been paid to its influence on humans. Electromagnetic radiation can be absorbed by organisms in which it causes a series of physiological. Trying to make sure that this is up. Okay. Uh, Physiological and functional changes. Many intricate electrical activity occur in the central nervous system, including learning and memory, which are therefore vulnerable to electromagnetic radiation. Moreover, the popularization of mobile phones has made them the main source of brain exposure to radiation. Therefore, the central nervous system is considered one of the most sensitive organs that is targeted by microwave radiation. A large number of studies have shown that microwave radiation can cause a series of adverse reactions in the central nervous system, including sleep disorder, in addition to learning and memory impairments. Okay, let's see here. So, okay, we're not going to go into that. Let's go uh, here. Okay. Exposure to mobile phones, which is very important because you hear TIs or targeted people talk about they use their cell phone, which they do with me. They will, when they see me, they will take out their cell phone, look at it, put it back in their pocket, or they will raise their cell phone in their hand, and as they're walking by me, acting as if they're reading something or looking at something on their phone, but they only do it the minute they see you or they get close to you, then they will do it, and it becomes such a regular occurrence. So like I said, when things are being done repeatedly in a certain manner, that is a form of psychological conditioning. So you have to understand that. Now, how you interpret that, is how you interpret it. It could be, you know, saying that they're controlling these individuals through the cell phone microwave signal, right? Could mean that you're under your cell phone is under surveillance, right? Could mean that how they're contacting the civilian population to give them your location and information about you via cell phone. So there's many different interpretations that can go on, right? But I don't focus on that because it doesn't make any sense for me to focus on it because they're going to do what they're going to do. Okay, this is just an action and a conditioning that's being done to you again to put you in fear to not use your cell phone, right? To speak or to do anything else. Okay. Of the numerous studies performed to explore the effect of mobile communication devices on humans, only a few have shown that cell phone and brain tumors are statistically correlated. For example, people who have used mobile phones for more than 10 years have a clearly higher risk of brain tumor. Those who are accustomed to using their mobile phones insulatarily, right? Insulatarily, presented a probability that was twice of that of people who don't. However, most studies have not supported the conclusion that, excuse me, excuse me, I had to get a drink of water. However, most studies have not supported the conclusion that cell phone cause brain tumor. And again, why is that? Okay, you know you got to look at who is doing the study, who is backing the people doing the study, and I can guarantee you that the majority of these studies are backed by the mobile telecom industry. Okay, what you have to look at is the studies that are being done by independent scientists who are not paid by the mobile telecom conglomerates, and so they have an unbiased uh, report, one that is more truthful as opposed to the one put out by those who are being paid by the telecom conglomerates. Okay, one study reported by the Interphone study group showed that there was no increase in the risk of glioma or melanglioma in users of mobile phone. It has been suggested that there is an increased risk of glioma at the highest exposure level, but biases and error prevent casual interpretation of these data. So again, it talks about biases and error, right? Additionally, Lajabara found that glioma was not preferentially located in the part of the brain with the highest exposure. Finally, Hardell assessed the use of mobile and cordless phone in 347 cases of melanoma in the head and neck region and 1,184 controls and found no increased risk. Occupational exposure, industrial exposure. In long-term epi- epidemiology, sorry, epidemiological, epidemi, uh, epidemiological. That's it. Okay, just got to slow the mind down. Epidemiological investigations of large population with occupational exposure. The results have not been consistent. Destag, investigative workers who work at a television transmitter station with a frequency ranging between 202 and 209 megahertz, 694 to 701 megahertz, 750 through 757 megahertz, or 774 to 781 megahertz, and at the medium wave broadcasting station. Their answer to questionnaire showed that the workers suffered, this is important, so you hear me talk about these things, right? Suffered from symptoms including headaches, which I suffer from, as well as my kids and Pam when we're being heavily microwaved, fatigue, which Pam suffers from greatly, Okay, stress and sleeplessness, which we all suffer from. Most of the workers recovered when they left the source of microwave radiation. In addition, another study showed that significant psychiatric symptoms were observed in people who work in these areas. In particular, somatization, obsessive compulsivity, paranoid ideation, and psychoticism were reported. Okay, so again, we talk about these effect of these, you know, uh, microwave frequency and being exposed to microwave radiation and what it does, right? What are the adverse effect of it? And every list of symptoms here is what we as target individual experience and we talk about. Okay. Military exposure. Standard devices used by military personnel that may pose electromagnetic hazard, hazards includes radar and missile systems. In a report by the Poland Department of Microwave Safety, occupational exposure. It's another helicopter again. Okay, you guys hearing it? This time it's flying pretty low. Okay, standard devices used by military personnel that may pose electronic hazard includes radar and missile defense. In a report by the Poland Department of Microwave Safety, occupational exposure to electromagnetic fields was analyzed in the work environment of personnel of 204 devices divided into 5 groups: surface to air, missile systems, radars, aircraft and helicopters, communication devices, surveillance and height finder radars, airport radars, and radio navigation systems. In 57% of military devices, Polish workers work in occupational protection zone. In 35% of cases, soldiers work in intermediate and hazardous zones, and in 22% only in the intermediate zones. In 43% of devices, military personnel were not exposed to an electromagnetic field. The visual reaction time and short-term memory of healthy male and female workers at a radar site with a frequency range of 2 to 18 gigahertz were recorded with a simple blind computer assist visual reaction time test or modified Wechsler memory scale test. The results indicated that radar microwave radiation leads to a decreased reaction time and lower short-term memory performance. Okay, so let me read that again. The results indicated that radar microwave radiation leads to a decreased reaction time and lower short-term memory performance. Amount radar workers exposed to 14 to 18 gigahertz microwave, the somatic symposium anxiety and insomnia, social dysfunction, and severe depression were caused. Read that again. I gotta read this. Amount radar workers exposed to 14 to 18 gigahertz microwave, the somatic symposium anxiety and insomnia, social dysfunction, and severe depression were caused. Saying divided the radar workers into 3 sets. Control group N equals 68, exposure group 1 N equals 40, exposed to 18 to 12 gigahertz, and exposure group 2 N equals 58, working with radar at 12.5 to 18 gigahertz. The 3 groups were further divided into two groups according to their years of service, up to 10 years and minus 10 years, to investigate the effect of years of exposure to radon. Melatonin and serotonin levels were estimated, which played important roles in the nervous system. The results demonstrate the ability of electromagnetic field (EMF) to influence plasma melatonin and serotonin concentration in radical workers. The results were significant. Further range from 12.5 to 18 gigahertz with a service period greater than 10 years. Additionally, people exposed to military microwave sources were more, see helicopter again, were more, they're flying pretty low now, were more vulnerable to brain tumors. Richer found a higher incidence of brain cancer in radar technician and a shortened incubation period, less than 10 years. I'm going to try to butcher that name. Uh, I'm just going to say S collected retrospective data for Polish soldiers over 15 years and showed that the prevalence of brain cancer was high in each group. Okay? Again, the data showed that the prevalence of brain cancer was high in each group. Okay? So, effects of microwave radiation on children. Because of a child's nervous system is growing and their head is more vulnerable to radiation energy, studies have specifically addressed whether the nervous system of children are more susceptible to electromagnetic radiation have been performed. However, there is little scientific evidence to demonstrate that children are more sensitive to electromagnetic radiation than adults. And again, this is something that they have to put in there because they didn't do a conclusive study to find that out. And again, it's children, so you don't want to be exposed by these uh, microwave or radio wave signal that may potentially cause them harm at a young age. Okay, so we're going to. I'm not going to the positive effect in it because this is just you're talking about short exposure levels for a short period of time that increases your attention span and stuff like that. But again, you look at radiation that they use on cancer patient. Yes, it may kill some of the cancer cells, but guess what? There are other adverse effect that goes along with being exposed to that type of radiation, right? Including hair falling out, not being able to hold down solid food and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a positive effect, but there's also a negative effect, right? Okay, so uh, they were. Let's see if I can find this article. There was an article that talked about a cell phone tower being installed next to a school, and some of the kids who goes to that school develop cancer. So I can find that article. Okay, here you go. See that? Yeah, they remove that one. So let's see here. Okay, so parents blame elementary school cell tower after fourth student diagnosed with cancer. Okay, so again, you know, we cannot take the word of these scientists who are being paid by the uh, cell phone telecom companies or conglomerate to be truthful. Okay, so a fourth child has been diagnosed with cancer at a San uh, how to pronounce that. County Elementary School, Spanish. San Joaquin could be self. The J I use. Anyway, I'm sorry for laughing, but I'm laughing at myself because you know I don't speak Spanish. So hopefully I said that right. San Joaquin, right? If there are any Spanish people in TI out there watching this video, please let me know if I'm right. Okay. Okay. And parents believe it's because of radiation caused by a cell phone tower. The tower are spread throughout the community, but it's this particular one that parents said need to go. We had a doctor tell us that it's 100% environmental. The kind of tumor that he has, says Monica uh, Ferrulli. Her son Mason was the second child to be diagnosed with cancer in just 3 years at Western Elementary School. He was 10 years old and walked by this cell phone tower daily. It's indescribable. It's really tough, she said. It's one of the hardest things that I've been through, said Joe Prime. Prime's son Kyle was the first, diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2016, and two more kids were diagnosed this year. It just seemed like coincidence is no longer a reason for all this illness, Prime said. They believe it's this cell phone tower that's harming their kids. Kids shouldn't be guinea pigs, and we shouldn't be taking chances with our children's lives. But again, we all are guinea pigs, okay? And this is what I try to tell these civilian perpetrators out there, that they're also guinea pigs. They're engaging in this psychological program against target individuals, okay? But they are also being used and tested with this technology. Not also that, but the architects of this program now know that just as how the Nazis did to the German people, okay, getting the German people to turn on their neighbors, okay, they have perfected the psychological tactics, the psychological manipulation, as well as the directed energy technology, right, in terms of using it to control human behavior. Okay, so let's go back here because I think this article underneath said that the cell phone tower was removed. Okay, so Sprint was forced to shut down the cell phone tower that was located outside a school in the suburbs of Sacramento, California. The tower location became a topic of controversy in recent years as numerous children in the school have developed cancer. At least 4 students at St. Joaquin County Elementary School have gotten cancer since the cell tower was installed, and after a while, many of the parents began pointing the finger at Sprint. All right, so well, I guess it was taken down, so which is a good thing. Okay, but again, what these people don't understand, particularly the civilian perps and the majority who are religiously, um, religious, interreligion, religious fanatics, are part of a religious cult or organization, is that they're also being conditioned. Okay, they're also being conditioned, and I'm gonna show you how, because these people believe that's what is happening to us, right, is some sort of spiritual thing that's going on, right, and it's God that's doing this, right, which is all bullshit. Okay, but again, this is what they want them to believe. Now, if you look up J. Lipton, the 8 criteria, by the way, for thought reform. She Bible cult comes up, right? again, this is showing you. Let's see, did I spell that right? Okay, so there you go. I didn't spell it right. It's TER. Still, this is what comes up. Again, I just talked about how they manipulate your internet, your search criterias, because normally, uh, I would get a lot of this information, but not right now. So let's try that. Okay, no, when I usually put in J Lifton, A criteria, did I spell it right? It's Lifton, J Lifton. Okay, there you go. That's probably why. All right, well, I got ahead of myself there. J Lifton. There you go. That's why it didn't show up. Okay. All right, my mistake. It happens when you're a TI. It happens. Okay. So let's see here. Let's go to the PDF. Okay. All right. So I didn't realize that I had that page still up. Anyway, so this is what is being used on your civilian perpetrators. Okay, this is what is being used on them. Some of this is being used on us also. And so the number two, mystical manipulation, planned spontaneity. Okay, extensive personal manipulation. Seeks to promote specific patterns of behavior and emotion in such a way that it appears to have arisen spontaneously from within the environment, while it actually has been orchestrated. Okay? Totalist leader claimed to be agents chosen by God, history, or some supernatural force to carry out a mystical imperative. The principles, God centered or otherwise, can be put forcibly to claim exclusively so that the cult and its belief become the only true path to salvation or enlightenment. The individuals then develop the psychology of the pawn and participate actively in the manipulation of others. Okay, the leader who becomes the center of the mystical manipulation, or the person in whose name it is done, can be sometimes more real than the abstract God and therefore attractive to cult members. Legitimize the deception used to recruit new members and or raise funds, and the deception used on the outside world. Okay, so I just wanted to read that just so that you guys understand and realize and know exactly what it is that they're doing. That this isn't no spiritual warfare that's going on here. This isn't any godly intervention or anything like that. And if it was, why would you worship a God that will put you to something like this? And I know the excuse always going to be, well, God wouldn't put you through anything you that would kill you, right, or something like that. Uh, which is kind of silly and stupid and idiotic in thinking. All right, it's like saying, well, to the serial killer who chop off your legs, cut off your arms, right? And somebody coming to you and say, well, you, at least you live, okay? You didn't die, okay? I mean, this is the idiotic thinking that some of these religious people think, and some of the most idiotic thoughts that they will have in their mind, right? The ignorance is unbelievable and overwhelming. But that's what religion will do to you. Okay. All right, guys. So this is it for the video, and see you guys in the next one.